Fleet Commander Zthkin stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars through the massive viewing port. His forearms moved across the control panels with practiced ease, checking the status of his scout fleet one final time. Ships floated in perfect formation around him, their dark hulls nearly invisible against the black of space. The Cathari had been exploring and conquering worlds for over 300 years. Their empire stretched across 17 star systems, each one home to species that had learned to bow before their superior technology. Zthkin had personally led the conquest of 4 worlds, and each time the pattern was the same. Send in the scouts, study the local species, then return with detailed reports for the main battle fleet. It was simple work. Most species they encountered were still fighting with primitive weapons or had barely learned to fly between their own planets. The Cathari possessed technology that made them nearly gods in comparison. Their ships could become invisible, their weapons could destroy entire cities, and their shields could stop anything the locals might throw at them. Commander called his second officer, a young warrior named Vexel. "We are approaching the target system. Long-range sensors show the third planet has a large population." Zthkin nodded, his black eyes studying the data that appeared on his personal screen. The planet was blue and green, covered in vast oceans and large land masses. The atmosphere was perfect for most known life forms, and the electromagnetic readings suggested a species that had discovered electricity and radio waves. "What is their technology level?" he asked. "Basic, sir. They have primitive spacecraft, some satellites, and what appears to be nuclear weapons. Nothing that could threaten us." Vexel paused, reading more data. "They call themselves humans, and they seem to be spread across most of the planet's surface." Zthkin felt a familiar excitement building in his chest. Another world to add to the Empire, another species to kneel before the Cathari throne. He had never failed in a scouting mission, and he did not intend to start now. "Excellent. In standard reconnaissance protocol. I want complete stealth mode activated before we cross the outer edge of their system. Deploy the sensor drones and establish communication relay points. We will study these humans for 30 days, then return with our findings." The 12 ships of Scout Fleet Gamma 7 moved deeper into the solar system, their cloaking devices, making them invisible to any primitive detection systems the humans might possess. Zthkin watched with satisfaction as his fleet spread out in a perfect search pattern, each ship taking responsibility for monitoring different aspects of the human civilization. The first reports came in within hours, and they were exactly what Zthkin expected. The humans were divided into multiple tribes that they called nations. They fought among themselves regularly, wasting resources and lives on petty conflicts. Their weapons were crude but effective against their own kind. They had recently developed the ability to split atoms, but they used this knowledge primarily to build bombs rather than power sources. "Typical," Zthkin muttered as he read the reports. "Another species that cannot unite even in the face of their own destruction. They will be easy to conquer." But as the days passed, the reports became more interesting. The humans were not as primitive as they first appeared. They had built space stations and were actively exploring their own solar system. They had sent machines to other planets and were planning to send their own people to live on their moon and the Red Planet. They called Mars more surprising was their technology. While crude by Cathari standards, it was advancing at an incredible rate. In just a few decades, they had gone from basic flight to space travel. Their computers were becoming more powerful every year, and their weapons were becoming more sophisticated. Vexel reported on the 10th day of observation. "The humans have detected something." Zthkin looked up from his reports. "What do you mean?" "They are moving their military forces. Ships, aircraft, ground troops, all of them are being repositioned. It is as if they are preparing for something." This was concerning. The cloaking technology had never failed before. No primitive species had ever detected a Cathari scout fleet. Zthkin ordered increased caution and deeper scanning of human communication networks. What they found made his blood run cold. The humans were not just preparing for something, they were preparing for them. Intercepted communications revealed that the humans had somehow detected the scout fleet's arrival. They had been tracking the ships for over a week, using methods that should have been impossible for their technology level. Even more disturbing, they seemed to understand that. The ships were not from their own world. "How is this possible?" Zthkin demanded of his science officer. "Unknown, sir. Their detection methods are unlike anything we have encountered. They appear to be using some form of quantum resonance scanning that can penetrate our cloaking fields." Zthkin paced the bridge, his forearms clasped behind his back. This had never happened before. In 3 centuries of expansion, no species had ever detected a Cathari scout fleet. The cloaking technology was perfect, tested against every known form of detection. On the 13th day, humans made their first direct move. It started with a simple radio transmission broadcast on multiple frequencies. The message was directed at empty space, but Zthkin knew it was meant for them. "To the unknown vessels observing our world," the transmission began. "We know you are there. We have been watching you watch us. We invite you to make peaceful contact, or we ask that you leave our system immediately." The voice belonged to a human female, and she spoke with a calm confidence that unnerved Zthkin. This was not the voice of a primitive being frightened by the unknown. This was the voice of someone who was in control. "Should we respond, sir?" Zthkin asked. "No, maintain silence. They are bluffing. They cannot actually see us, but the humans were not bluffing." Over the next few hours, they began broadcasting specific coordinates. Not general areas, but exact positions where each of the 12 scout ships was located. They knew where every single vessel was hiding. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "they are hailing us directly. They know our exact positions." Zthkin stared at the tactical display, watching as red dots appeared on the screen. Each dot represented one of his ships, and each dot was being tracked by the humans with impossible accuracy. "This is impossible," he whispered. The next transmission was even more disturbing. The same human female voice, but this time with specific information that made Zthkin's hearts race. "Cathari Scout Fleet, we know who you are and why you are here. We have been monitoring your communications and have learned your language. We know about your empire and your plans for our world. We offer you one final chance to leave peacefully." They knew their species' name, had broken their communication codes. They had learned their language. How was any of this possible? Sir Zthkin said quietly, "Perhaps we should consider withdrawal. This is unlike any species we have encountered." Zthkin wanted to agree, but his pride would not allow it. The Cathari did not retreat from primitives. They were the masters of the galaxy, and these humans were nothing more than another species to be conquered. "Maintain position," he ordered. "Continue observation. They may have detected us, but they cannot harm us. Their weapons are too primitive to penetrate our shields." It was the last order Fleet Commander Zthkin would ever give as a free warrior. The attack came at dawn on the 14th day, and it came from every direction at once. The humans had not simply detected the scout fleet. They had surrounded its space around the 12 Cathari ships, suddenly filled with explosions. But these were not the crude nuclear weapons the scouts had expected. These were electromagnetic pulse devices designed specifically to disable electronics. The pulses tore through the scout ship's systems, shutting down engines, weapons, and life support. But the humans were not finished. As the Cathari ships drifted helplessly in space, massive nets made of some unknown material deployed around each vessel. The nets conducted electricity, sending continuous electromagnetic pulses through the ship hulls, ensuring that no system could restart. In less than 30 minutes, the entire scout fleet was captured. Zthkin sat in his command chair staring at the dead screens around him. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows across the bridge, and the only sound was the labored breathing of his crew. Sir Zthkin whispered, "What do we do now?" Before Zthkin could answer, the main screen flickered. To life. A human face appeared, belonging to the female who had been speaking to them. She had short brown hair and determined blue eyes, and she was wearing what appeared to be a military uniform. "Commander Zthkin," she said in perfect Cathari, "my name is Admiral Grant, of the Earth Defense Force. Welcome to our solar system. We have much to discuss. Admiral Lisa Grant stood in the command center of Luna Station, watching the captured alien ships through the massive observation windows. The 12 vessels hung in space like dark metal insects, caught in an invisible web. Each ship was surrounded by the electromagnetic nets that had disabled them 3 weeks ago. And human technicians in spacesuits moved carefully around the holes, studying every detail. Any luck with the translation software? She asked Dr. Kevin Palmer, her chief science officer. Palmer looked up from his computer console, pushing his glasses up his nose. We are making progress. The aliens have been cooperative, especially. Their commander seems to understand that resistance is pointless right now. Lisa nodded, turning back to watch the alien ships. The capture had been the result of months of preparation. When Earth's deep space monitoring stations had first detected the incoming vessels, every major government on the planet had been alerted. The ships were clearly not human, and their behavior suggested they were scouts for something much larger. What have we learned about their technology? She asked. Incredible advances in several areas, Palmer replied. They're faster than light. Travel is based on principles we barely understand. Their cloaking technology is at least 50 years ahead of our best efforts. But there are also some surprising weaknesses. Lisa raised an eyebrow. Such as, they rely heavily on their technological superiority. Their ships have powerful shields and weapons, but they are not built for the kind of warfare we humans know. They expect their enemies to fight like they do, with big ships firing at each other across vast distances. This was exactly what Lisa had hoped to hear. Humanity's greatest advantage had always been their ability to adapt and think differently than their opponents.
Wow, what about their numbers?
Based on the data we have extracted from their computers, they have conquered 17 star systems. Each conquest followed the same pattern. Send in scouts, study the local species, then return with a massive fleet to demand surrender. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. How massive? According to their records, the smallest invasion fleet they have used contained over 200 ships. The largest had nearly 1,000. The numbers were staggering. Earth's entire space fleet consisted of less than 50 ships, and most of those were designed for exploration and transportation rather than combat. If the aliens returned with their full military might, humanity would be facing impossible odds. There is some good news, Palmer continued. Their commander Zthkin has been very informative. Seems to believe that cooperation might save his life and the lives of his crew. Lisa walked over to the communication console. Patch me through to the alien commander. A few moments later, the main screen flickered to life. Commander Zthkin appeared, sitting in what looked like a small holding cell aboard one of the captured ships. His forearms were secured with restraints, but his black eyes were alert and intelligent. Commander, Lisa said in carefully practiced Cathari language, I hope you are being treated well. Zthkin tilted his head slightly, as well as Ken. Be expected for a prisoner of war. You have surprised us, Admiral Grant. We did not expect such capability from your species. That seems to be a common mistake, Lisa replied. Tell me about your empire. How long before they send a fleet to look for you? The alien commander was silent for a long moment. Standard protocol requires scout fleets to report back within 60 days. If no communication is received, a search fleet is dispatched. If the search fleet finds evidence of hostile action, the full invasion fleet follows. How long do we have? Perhaps 4 months, possibly 5. The search fleet will be smaller than the invasion force, but still far larger than your current military capabilities. Lisa felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. For months, to prepare for a war that would determine the fate of humanity. How many ships in a search fleet? Typically 30 to 40 vessels, all of them designed for combat, not reconnaissance. Palmer leaned forward. Admiral, based on our analysis of their technology, 30 ships would be enough to destroy every major city on Earth. Lisa nodded grimly. Then we have work to do. Over the next several days, Lisa worked with military leaders from around the world to develop a defense strategy. The United Nations Security Council held emergency sessions. And for the first time in human history, every nation agreed to work together toward a common goal: The Americans contributed their advanced radar and satellite technology, along with their expertise in electronic warfare. The Russians offered their knowledge of nuclear propulsion and heavy weaponry. The Chinese provided manufacturing capabilities and expertise in quantum computing. The Europeans combined their space industries and materials science programs, but the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Captain Jake Morrison had been commanding a mining operation on Mars. When the alien scout fleet was captured, his ships were designed for moving massive amounts of material through space, and his crew were experts at working in the harsh environment of the outer solar system. Admiral Morrison said during a video conference from Mars, "I have been thinking about this problem differently. These aliens expect us to fight like they do, with big ships and powerful weapons. But what if we do not give them that kind of fight?" Lisa leaned forward. "What do you mean? My mining ships are not warships, but they can carry enormous amounts of cargo. What if we turn the entire solar system into a weapon?" The idea was brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of building a fleet to match the alien ship for ship, humanity would use the resources of the entire solar system to create a massive trap. Dr. Palmer worked with captured alien technology to develop new weapons. The Cathari plasma cannons were impressive, but human engineers found ways to make them more powerful and efficient. The alien shield technology was adapted for human ships, though it required massive amounts of power to operate. But the most important development was in the area of stealth technology. The aliens had cloaking devices that could make ships invisible, but they had never encountered an enemy that could detect them. Human radar technology, combined with quantum resonance scanners, had penetrated their cloaking fields easily. "The key," Palmer explained to Lisa, "is that their cloaking works by bending light and electromagnetic radiation around their ships, but they cannot hide from quantum signatures or gravitational effects. Once you know what to look for, they are actually quite easy to spot." Lisa smiled for the first time in weeks, as they had been using technology that only works against enemies who do not know the secret. "Exactly. And now that we know the secret, we can use it against them." Defense preparations moved quickly. Mining stations throughout the solar system were converted into weapons platforms. Cargo ships were fitted with missile launchers and plasma cannons. Communication satellites were equipped with high-powered lasers and electromagnetic pulse weapons. But the most ambitious project was taking place in the asteroid belt. Morrison and his mining crews were working around the clock to hollow out large asteroids and fill them with weapons and sensors. When the alien fleet arrived, they would find the solar system filled with hidden fortresses. "How many can we prepare?" Lisa asked during one of their planning sessions. "At least 200 major installations," Morrison replied, "plus several thousand smaller weapons platforms. Can turn every piece of space debris into a potential threat." Meanwhile, the captured alien crew members were proving to be valuable sources of information. Under careful questioning, they revealed details about Cathari military tactics, ship designs, and strategic thinking. "They are not stupid," Zthkin explained during one of his interviews, "but they have been successful for so long that they have become predictable. They always use the same tactics, because those tactics have always worked." "What would you do if you were in our position?" Lisa asked. The alien commander thought for a moment. "I would do exactly what you were doing. Use the environment to your advantage. Force them to fight on your terms, not theirs. But Admiral, you must understand that even if you defeat the search fleet, the invasion fleet that follows will be 10 times larger." Lisa nodded. "We will deal with that problem when it comes." But privately, she was already thinking about the next phase of the war. If humanity was going to survive, they would need to do more than just defend Earth. They would need to take the fight to the aliens themselves. As the weeks passed, reports came in from around the solar system. The defense preparations were proceeding ahead of schedule. Human technology was advancing rapidly as scientists and engineers worked to understand and improve upon captured alien systems. But the most important development was something that could not be measured in weapons or ships. For the first time in human history, the entire species was united in a common cause. Every nation, every culture, every individual person on Earth was working toward the same goal: survival. Lisa stood in the command center, watching the construction work taking place around Luna Station. In just a few months, the solar system had been transformed into a fortress. When the alien search fleet arrived, they would find a very different humanity than the one their scouts had reported. Fleet Admiral Vexel stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Vengeance of Keth, watching the blue planet grow larger on the main screen. 35 warships accompanied him, each one a masterpiece of Cathari engineering. He had commanded search fleets before, but never had he felt such confidence in his mission. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we are detecting the remains of Scout Fleet Game 7. All 12 ships appear to be intact, but non-functional." Vexel nodded grimly. Whatever had happened to Zthkin and his crew, they were about to discover the truth. The humans had somehow disabled an entire scout fleet without destroying it. This suggested either advanced technology or clever tactics. Either way, it would not save them from the full might of a Cathari search fleet. "Begin." "Standard bombardment pattern," he ordered. "Target their major population centers. We will show them the price of attacking Cathari forces." The weapons officer began charging the main plasma cannons. Each ship in the fleet carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Against a primitive world like Earth, they would be unstoppable. But as the fleet moved closer to the planet, something unexpected happened. "Sir," the sensor officer called out, "I am detecting multiple energy signatures throughout the system. They do not match any known technology." Vexel frowned. "Explain." "There are artificial structures hidden throughout the asteroid belt. At least 200 large installations, possibly more. They appear to be weapons platforms." Oh, this was impossible. The scout fleet had reported that the humans barely had space travel capability. How could they have built hundreds of weapons platforms in just a few months? "Sir," another officer reported, "we are receiving a transmission from the planet." The main screen flickered, showing a human female in military uniform. Vexel recognized her from the intelligence reports. This was Admiral Lisa Grant, the leader of Earth's defense forces. "Fleet Admiral Vexel," she said, speaking perfect Cathari. "I am Admiral Lisa Grant. We have been expecting you." Vexel felt a chill run through his body. How did she know his name? How had she learned their language so quickly? "Human," he replied, "you have made a grave mistake by attacking our scout fleet. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." Grant smiled, and there was something in that smile that made Vexel uncomfortable. "I am afraid we cannot do that. See, we have learned quite a lot from your scout fleet. We know about your empire, your tactics, and your technology. Also know your weaknesses. Impossible. No primitive species has ever." His words were cut off as alarms began sounding throughout the bridge. The tactical display showed hundreds of red dots appearing around the fleet. The humans had somehow surrounded them without being detected. "Sir," the weapons officer shouted, "we are under attack." The battle began unlike anything in Cathari military history. Instead of facing an enemy fleet in open space, Vexel found his ships being hit from every direction by small, fast-moving targets. Human fighters swarmed around the larger Cathari vessels like angry insects. Too small and numerous for the big guns to target effectively. But the real shock came when the hidden weapons, platforms in the asteroid belt, opened fire. Beams of energy that looked suspiciously like modified Cathari plasma cannons struck the search fleet's shields. The weapons were crude compared to proper Cathari technology, but they were also more powerful, designed for raw destruction rather than elegant efficiency. "How are they generating this much power?" Vexel demanded. His science officer was frantically working at his console. "Sir, they appear to be using our own technology against us. These weapons are based on our plasma cannon designs, but they have been modified for greater output." Captain Ben Parker flew his fighter through the chaos of battle, leading a squadron of 20 human pilots in an attack on the alien flagship. His ship was small and fast, built for speed rather than heavy weapons, but it carried something that aliens had never seen before: smart missiles that could think for themselves. "Tiger Squadron, this is Tiger Leader," he said into his radio. "Remember the plan? Hit and run. Do not try to fight them head to head. We are mosquitoes. They are elephants." Human fighters dove toward the massive alien ship, firing their missiles and immediately breaking away. The Cathari tried to track them with their big guns, but the human ships were too fast and too unpredictable. Direct hit on their shield generator, Parker reported. Nice shooting, Tiger 3. But the aliens were not helpless. Their shields were powerful, and their weapons could destroy a human fighter with a single hit. 3 of Parker's pilots were killed in the first few minutes of combat, their ships vaporized by plasma beams. "This is Tiger 4, came a panicked voice over the radio. I'm hit, engine failure." Parker watched helplessly as his wingman's fighter spiraled away, smoke pouring from its engines. But even as his friends died around him, he felt a fierce pride. They were hurting the aliens. The impossible was happening, meanwhile. Captain Jake Morrison was leading a different kind of attack from his position in the asteroid belt. His mining ships had been converted into missile platforms, each one carrying hundreds of guided warheads. But Morrison had a special surprise waiting for the aliens. "All stations, this is Morrison. Execute Plan Delta. I repeat, execute Plan Delta." Throughout the asteroid belt, what had appeared to be harmless space rocks suddenly revealed themselves. As weapons platforms, missile launchers emerged from hidden compartments. Powerful lasers began targeting the alien ships. But the most devastating attack came from an unexpected source. Morrison had spent months preparing special asteroids, each one hollowed out and filled with nuclear warheads. Now, using his mining ship's powerful engines, he began hurling these massive bombs directly at the alien fleet. "Incoming," shouted the tactical officer aboard the Vengeance of Keth. Multiple large objects on collision course. Vexel watched in horror as several asteroids, each one the size of a small mountain, came hurtling toward his fleet. Weapons opened fire, trying to destroy the incoming projectiles. But the asteroids were too large and moving too fast. The first asteroid struck the cruiser Divine Wrath. Punching through its shields and armor like they were made of paper, the ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, taking 400 Cathari warriors with it. "Evasive action," Vexel screamed. "All ships, evasive action!" But the human attack was far from over. As the alien ships scattered to avoid the asteroid bombardment, they flew directly into the second phase of the human trap. Colonel Rebecca Turner had been waiting for this moment. Her Marines were aboard small, fast ships that had been hiding among the space debris. As the alien vessels broke formation, Turner's forces struck. "Boarding teams, go. Go, go," she shouted into her radio. Dozens of small human ships latched onto the hulls of the alien vessels like parasites. Using cutting tools and explosives, the human Marines began burning through the alien armor to get inside. "This is Team Alpha," Turner reported as her soldiers fought their way through the corridors. "Of an alien destroyer, we are inside, beginning capture operations." The Cathari had never experienced boarding actions before. Their wars were fought with big ships firing at each other across vast distances. They had no training for close quarters combat in the narrow corridors of their own ships. Turner's Marines, on the other hand, had been training for exactly this kind of fighting. They moved through the alien ship like professionals, using tactics developed over centuries of human warfare. "Clear left," Turner shouted as her team reached a junction. "Frag out." A grenade exploded around the corner and the Marines rushed forward. The alien warriors they encountered were larger and stronger than humans. But they were not prepared for the speed and aggression of the human attack. Back on the bridge of the Vengeance of Keth, Vexel watched his fleet being torn apart. In less than an hour, he had lost 8 ships and had 3 more captured by boarding parties. The humans were fighting unlike any enemy he had ever encountered. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving surrender demands from the human admiral." Admiral Grant's face appeared on the screen again. Behind her, Vexel could see the captured alien ships from the scout fleet. Their crews apparently unharmed, but clearly prisoners. "Fleet Admiral Grant said calmly, "You have seen what we can do. Your choice is simple. Surrender now, or watch your entire fleet be destroyed. We are not unreasonable. Your crews will be treated well, just as we have treated the scout fleet." Survivors. Vexel looked around his bridge. Half his instruments were dark, damaged by the human attacks. Through the viewports, He could see the burning wreckage of his ships floating in space. The humans had done the impossible. They had defeated a Cathari search fleet. "What do you want?" he asked quietly. "Information," Grant replied. "We know that a larger fleet will come when you fail to report back. We need to know when, and we need to know how many ships." Vexel felt the weight of centuries of Cathari military pride crushing down on him. But he also felt something else. Fear. These humans were not the primitives his empire had expected. They were something far more dangerous. "The invasion fleet," he said slowly, "consists of 300 ships. They will arrive in 6 months when we fail to report." Dr. Kevin Palmer walked through the captured alien ship, examining the technology that would change everything. 6 months had passed since the defeat of the search fleet. And in that time, human engineers had worked day and night to understand Cathari science. What they discovered was both amazing and terrifying. Admiral Grant, Palmer said into his radio. "You need to see this." Admiral Lisa Grant arrived at the alien ship's computer center within minutes. Around her, human technicians worked alongside captured Cathar crew members who had agreed to help in exchange for better treatment. "What have you found?" she asked. Palmer pointed to a large holographic display showing a star map. "This is the complete record of the Cathari Empire. 17 conquered worlds, each one with billions of enslaved beings. But Admiral, that is not the worst part." He touched a control and the display changed to show detailed records of each conquest. "Look at this data. Every single world they conquered followed the same pattern. The local species was given a simple choice: submit completely or be destroyed. Those who submitted were enslaved. Those who resisted were killed." Lisa felt sick as she read the numbers. Planet after planet showed the same story. Entire civilizations wiped out because they refused to kneel before the Cathari Empire. "How many dead?" she asked quietly. "Billions. Maybe tens of billions." "The Cathari do not just conquer worlds, Admiral. They erase cultures, languages, entire ways of life. They turn living beings into property." But Palmer was not finished. He brought up another display, this one showing communication records. "Admiral, we have intercepted messages between the Cathari homeworld and their military commanders. The invasion fleet is not just coming to conquer Earth. They are coming to make an example of us." "What do you mean? Because we defeated their search fleet. The Cathari leaders are angry. They plan to destroy every human city, every human settlement, everywhere humans live. They want to show the galaxy what happens to species that resist them." Lisa stared at the alien writing on the screen. Even though she could not read it, the meaning was clear. The Cathari were not just coming to conquer. They were coming to commit genocide. "There is more," Palmer continued. "We have learned something important about the Cathari themselves. Admiral, they are not all warriors. Most of their population are civilians who have no choice in what their military does." This was unexpected news. All the captured aliens they had questioned were soldiers or ship crew members. "Explain." "According to the computer records, Cathari society is divided into castes. The warrior caste controls the government and the military. But there are also worker castes, scientist castes, and civilian castes. Most Cathari people have never seen war and have no say in their empire's actions." Palmer brought up another display showing population data. On their homeworld alone, there are over 8 billion Cathari civilians. They are kept under strict control by the warrior caste, who number less than 50 million. Lisa felt a strange mix of emotions. The Cathari Empire was responsible for terrible crimes, but most of its own people were victims too. "Admiral," came a voice over the radio. "This is Captain Morrison. You need to come to the construction yards immediately." To the massive orbital shipyard that had been built around Luna Station. In the 6 months since the battle with the search fleet, human industry had been working at an incredible pace. The shipyard was now the largest construction project in human history. Morrison met her at the docking bay, his face showing both pride and exhaustion. "Admiral, I want to show you something that will change this war." They took a small transport ship to the far end of the shipyard, where a massive structure was taking shape. It was unlike anything Lisa had ever seen. The ship was enormous, larger. than any vessel humans had ever built, but its design was clearly based on captured Cathari technology. "We call her the Enterprise," Morrison said with a grin. "She is the first human starship designed for interstellar war." Lisa stared at the massive ship in amazement. "How long until she is finished?" 2 more months. "But Admiral, she is just the first. We have 12 more under construction, and the production rate is increasing every week." Morrison led her through the ship's interior, explaining the technology as they walked. The Enterprise was powered by a fusion reactor based on Cathari designs, but improved with human engineering. Her weapons were plasma cannons that could punch through any known armor. Her shields could stop almost any attack. But the most important feature, Morrison explained as they reached the bridge, is her faster-than-light drive. "Admiral, this ship can travel between star systems in days instead of months." Lisa felt a surge of hope. With ships like this, humanity would not have to wait for the Cathari to come to them. They could take the fight to the enemy. "How many crew does she need?" she asked. 800, including Marines for boarding actions. "We have been training crews for months, using captured alien simulators." Over the next few weeks, Lisa worked with military leaders from around the world to develop a new strategy. The original plan had been to defend Earth against the invasion fleet. But with the new ships, they had other options. Colonel Rebecca Turner had been promoted to general after her success in the battle with the search fleet. Now she stood in the planning room with Lisa and the other senior officers, studying star charts that showed Cathari territory. "The invasion fleet will arrive in 60 days, Turner said. 300 ships, carrying enough firepower to destroy every city on Earth, but we do not have to wait for them." Lisa nodded. "What do you propose? We take the fight to them, their homeworld, before they can launch their attack. Show them that humans are not just good at defense." It was a bold plan, perhaps too bold. The Cathari homeworld was heavily defended. Humanity would be attacking with only 13 ships against an entire star system. But Dr. Palmer had discovered something that might make the difference. "Admiral," he said during one of their planning sessions, "we have learned something important from our prisoner interviews. The Cathari military bases all their strategy on overwhelming force. They have never faced an enemy that could match their technology, so they have never developed tactics for equal combat." "What does that mean for us?" "It means they will not expect us to attack their homeworld. Their defenses are designed to stop primitive species with crude weapons. They are not prepared for enemies using their own technology against them." The more they studied the problem, the more possible it seemed. The Cathari had ruled through fear and superior technology for centuries. But now humans had captured their technology and learned their secrets. Captain Ben Parker, now commanding one of the new starships, brought up another important point. "Admiral, we have another advantage captured Cathari crew members have. It's been very helpful. Some of them seem to actually want us to succeed." This was true. During the months of captivity, several Cathari prisoners had expressed private doubts about their empire's actions. When they learned about human concepts like individual freedom and democratic government, some had become genuinely interested. Commander Zthkin, the leader of the original scout fleet, had been especially cooperative in his conversations with human interrogators. He had revealed details about Cathari society that painted a picture of a civilization built on oppression. Admiral Grant, Zthkin said during one of their meetings, "You must understand that not all Cathari support what our military does. Many of us have doubts, but we have never had a choice. The warrior caste controls everything." "What would happen if your people knew there was an alternative?" Lisa asked. "I do not know, but I think many would be interested in your ideas about freedom and individual rights." This conversation gave Lisa an idea that would become central to their strategy. What if the goal was not just to defeat the Cathari military, but to free the Cathari people themselves? As the days passed, the plan took shape. The 13 human ships would travel to the Cathari homeworld and launch a surprise attack. But instead of trying to destroy everything, they would target specific military installations while broadcasting messages to the civilian population. "We will tell them the truth," Lisa explained to her senior staff. "We will show them that their is another way to live without the warrior caste controlling their lives. General Turner was skeptical. Admiral, with respect, these are the same aliens who have enslaved 17 worlds. Why should we trust them? Because, Lisa replied, according to our prisoner interviews, most of them do not even know about the enslaved worlds. Caste controls all information. The civilian population has been lied to for generations. Dr. Palmer supported this approach. The psychological profiles we have developed suggest that Cathari civilians are not naturally aggressive. They have been conditioned to accept military rule through propaganda and fear. As the launch date approached, Lisa felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. In just a few weeks, she would be leading humanity's first interstellar military mission. The success or failure of this attack would determine not just the fate of Earth, but the future of the entire galaxy. Standing on the bridge of the Enterprise, watching the final preparations, Lisa thought about how much had changed. Since the first alien ships had appeared in their solar system, the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Cathari home system, and Admiral Lisa Grant felt her breath catch in her throat. The star system was unlike anything she had ever imagined. 3 planets orbited the central star, each one covered in massive cities that stretched across entire continents. Orbital stations hung in space like metal moons, and thousands of ships moved between the planets in endless streams of traffic. "My God," whispered Captain Morrison from his position at the tactical station. "How many people live in this system?"
Dr. Palmer checked his readings. Based on energy signatures and communication traffic, estimate at least 15 billion beings across all 3 planets.
Admiral Grant stared at the massive civilizations spread out before them. The Cathari homeworld was not just a planet. It was the center of an empire that had ruled the galaxy for centuries. She was about to attack it with 13 ships. "Admiral," reported Captain Parker from the communications station, "we are detecting the invasion fleet. 300 ships in high orbit around the second planet. They appear to be making final preparations for departure." Grant nodded grimly. They had arrived just in time. In a few more days, those ships would have left for Earth, carrying enough firepower to destroy human civilization. "Begin Phase 1, she ordered. "All ships, execute the plan." The 13 human ships spread out across the star system, each one heading for a different target. Their mission was not to destroy the Cathari civilization, but to free it from the warrior caste that had controlled it for so long. Captain Parker took his ship, the Freedom, toward the largest orbital communication station. His job was to take control of the system-wide, its broadcast network, and begin transmitting the message that would change everything. "This is Freedom to all units," he reported as his ship approached the station. "Beginning communications assault." The Cathari Defense Forces were completely unprepared for what happened next. For 300 years, no enemy had ever attacked their home system. Their weapons were powerful, but they were designed to fight primitive species with crude technology. Against human ships using their own advanced systems, the defenders were helpless. Parker's ship cloaked itself using captured stealth technology and slipped past the station's defenses. Within minutes, his boarding teams had captured the control center and were preparing to broadcast across the entire star system. Meanwhile, Admiral Grant led the main attack force toward the military headquarters on the primary planet, the Enterprise, and 5 other ships dropped through the atmosphere, their shields protecting them from defensive fire. "Target only military installations," Grant ordered over the fleet communication system. "Avoid civilian areas. We are here to liberate, not conquer." The attack was swift and precise. Human plasma cannons, improved versions of captured Cathari weapons, punched through shield generators and command centers. Within an hour, the primary military command structure was destroyed. But the real battle was not being fought with weapons. It was being fought with words, as Captain Parker's team took control of the communication network. They began broadcasting a message that reached every Cathari citizen in the star system. The message was spoken by Commander Zthkin, the captured Scout Fleet leader who had agreed to help humanity. "People of the Cathari worlds," Zethkin's voice carried across the star system, I am Commander Zthkin of the Imperial Fleet. I speak to you now as a free being, no longer bound by the lies of the warrior caste. On planets across the system, billions of Cathari stopped what they were doing and listened to words they had never heard before. For centuries, we have been told that we are superior to other species, that we have the right to conquer and enslave. But I have learned the truth. We are not conquerors. We are prisoners of our own system. The message continued, explaining what Zthkin had discovered during his months of captivity with the humans. He told his people about democracy, about individual freedom, about the right of every being to choose their own path in life. The humans do not wish to rule us, he said. They wish to show us that we can rule ourselves. The effect was immediate and dramatic. On the factory worlds where Cathari workers had labored for generations without choice, production stopped as beings gathered around communication screens. In the great cities, crowds formed in public squares, listening to ideas that their government had forbidden for centuries, but not everyone was ready to accept. Changed Supreme War Leader Caxtool commanded the orbital defense fleet from his flagship above the homeworld. As he watched human ships attack his installations, his rage grew beyond control. "Impossible," he screamed at his bridge crew. "How can primitives defeat our technology?" His tactical officer was studying the human attack patterns. "Sir, they are using our own weapons against us. But their tactics are completely different from anything we have encountered." This was true. The human ships fought like nothing the Cathari had ever seen. Instead of forming neat battle lines and exchanging fire at long range, they darted in and out of formations, attacking from unexpected angles and retreating before the defenders could respond. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving surrender requests from multiple ships. Some of our own crews are refusing to fight." Caxtool could not believe what he was hearing. Cathari warriors did not surrender. They did not refuse orders. But as he looked at his tactical display, he saw ship after ship powering down their weapons and broadcasting surrender signals. The message that Commander Zthkin was broadcasting was having an effect on the military as well as the civilians. For the first time in their lives, Cathari soldiers were being asked to think for themselves. General Rebecca Turner led the ground assault on the primary military command center. Her Marines fought through the building's defenses, but they found something unexpected. Many of the Cathari defenders were laying down their weapons and asking to speak with the human commanders. General, reported one of her squad leaders. "The aliens in the lower levels want to negotiate. They say they have information about prison camps." Turner felt her heart racing. The answer was more horrible than anything they had imagined. Deep beneath the military center, they found massive holding facilities where the Cathari warrior caste had imprisoned anyone who questioned their rule. Thousands of Cathari civilians, scientists, and even military officers who had shown signs of independent thinking were being held in terrible conditions. "My God," Turner whispered as she walked through the prison levels. "They have been imprisoning their own people." One of the prisoners, an elderly Cathari scientist named Velmer, approached her with tears in his 4 eyes. "Are you truly here? To free us?" he asked in broken English. "Yes," Turner replied. "We are here to free everyone." As news of the prison camps spread across the star system, the civilian uprising that had begun with Zthkin's broadcast turned into a full revolution. On planet after planet, Cathari civilians stormed government buildings and military bases. Demanding an end to warrior caste rule, the 300 ships of the invasion fleet found themselves surrounded by their own people. As civilian ships approached, the military vessels, broadcasting messages of peace and demanding that the warriors return to their home ports. Admiral Grant watched from the bridge of the Enterprise as the Cathari Empire collapsed around them, not through conquest, but through the simple act of telling the truth to people who had been lied to for centuries. Admiral Dr. Palmer reported, "We are receiving communication requests from 17 different star systems. Word of what happened here is spreading across the galaxy." Grant felt a mixture of amazement and responsibility. The enslaved worlds that the Cathari had conquered were learning that their oppressors had been defeated. But more than that, they were learning that freedom was possible. "Open channels to all requesting systems," she ordered. Over the next several hours, Grant found herself speaking with representatives from worlds across the galaxy. Some were former Cathari colonies seeking independence. Others were species that had never been conquered, but had lived in fear of the Empire. "What do you want from us?" asked the representative from a world called Zephyr Prime. "Nothing, Grant," replied. "We want you to be free to choose your own path. We will help you if you ask for help, but we will not rule you." This concept was difficult for many species to understand. For centuries, the galaxy had known only conquest and submission. The idea that a powerful species would choose not to rule others was revolutionary. As the days passed, a new order began to emerge in the galaxy. The Cathari warrior caste was removed from power by their own people, who established a democratic government. The enslaved worlds declared their independence and began forming peaceful alliances with each other. Captain Morrison, now commanding the exploration vessel Horizon, led missions to help establish communication between the newly free worlds. His ships carried diplomats and teachers rather than soldiers, spreading the concepts of democracy and individual rights. "Admiral," he reported during one of their regular communications, "I have never seen anything like it. Entire civilizations are rebuilding themselves based on the principles we shared with them.